Welcome to Lorrie and Katie's cooking show. In this episode, we wanted to focus on dinner and dessert. Now, Katie, when we think about vegan cooking, what is something that might challenge you?
Well, sometimes I just want something yummy, something that is going to fill my belly, that's a comfort food. And generally when I think of vegan cooking, I think of salads, vegetables. I don't think
Very
of
healthy things.
Yeah, I don't think of something decadent and delicious.
Right. And unfortunately, those decadent and delicious meals are usually cheesy, high calorie, and afterwards we feel guilty or just lethargic or even sometimes sick.
Yeah.
So today in this episode, we wanted to make a couple vegan dinners that are creamy, yummy, and comforting.
I'm ready.
Awesome. So our first recipe we're gonna do is stuffed shells. Creamy and yummy stuffed shells. And so for this recipe, we have already gotten our pan ready with some sauce. We've gotten our shells ready. And so we are gonna make our filling. So with our filling, we're just gonna use a blender and we are gonna put in here tofu, Katie's favorite tofu.
Getting used to it.
So why don't you just crumble or, well, stick that in there, maybe put that, some pieces. And we're gonna add a few interesting ingredients here. We're gonna add cracker crumbs. These are whole grain saltine crackers. And we're gonna put that in there. And then we're gonna use veganaise. Tastes pretty much the same as mayonnaise, but without the dairy. And we're gonna put that in there. And then we have our seasonings. And this has nutritional yeast, which is a very cheesy flavor, has chicken seasoning, salt, Italian seasoning, onion powder, garlic powder, and we'll stick that in there.
That smells really good.
And we'll blend it up. Scrape down the sides a second. Give it another whirl. All right, that looks great. So we'll put that in this bowl here, and then we're gonna mix it up with some spinach. So we're gonna mix some spinach into this recipe. It won't be the main taste in the recipe, but it will pack a punch of nutrition. Now, adding spinach and dark leafy greens like it is so good for our health. Spinach in particular is high in iron, folate, and choline. These minerals improve our mental performance, our clarity of thought, give us energy. Dark greens are full of vitamins A, vitamin C, E, and K. They're full of antioxidants which protect our blood cells and they lower cancer risk. So the next time you make a salad or a soup or even pasta, add some leafy greens like spinach in it and mix it up and diversify your nutrition by adding an easy ingredient like spinach to your recipes. So we're just gonna mix this up and then that is our filling. We'll fill our shells, put some more sauce on it, and put it in the oven. So this is a very, very easy, yummy meal. All right, so I was looking for whole wheat pasta shells because it's so much better for us, but unfortunately, I couldn't find any. But if I had found them, that is definitely what I'd be using. When you're just making normal pasta, spaghetti noodles, or rotini, look for whole wheat pasta. It's so much better than the white that we usually use. Whole wheat pasta is full of complex carbohydrates in contrast to the white pasta, which is all refined carbohydrates. So that means all extra minerals and fiber have been stripped from the white pasta. Whole wheat pasta has much more fiber, more minerals than the plain white pasta, so it's always a healthier choice. Some types of pasta like these big shells, it's harder to find them. but you never know. Look around, look for a health food store near you, and see what whole wheat pasta varieties you can find.
Another way that you could fill these is if you take a plastic Ziploc bag and put all your filling in it, and then cut the corner. You can squeeze it in like a piping bag.
That's a great idea. That would be less messy too. All right, our next recipe we're gonna make is an Alfredo recipe. Alfredo, Katie.
Love Alfredo.
So yummy. And this version is dairy-free. And so first we're gonna start by making up our sauce over at the stove. All right, to start making our sauce, we're gonna take 1.5 cups of onions and start to saute that with vegetable broth. And we're gonna saute it on kind of medium-high heat. And we're gonna saute it until there is no broth left in this pot. All right, you can see that the broth is pretty much all gone. I'm gonna add 4 cloves of minced garlic and saute it just for another minute about. All right, this looks great, smells great. We're gonna take it over and blend it up into our sauce. All right, we have our onions and our garlic smelling delicious, and we're gonna stick this in our blender here. All right, to our onion and garlic mixture, we're gonna add a nice heaping 1/2 cup of cashews. We have our mixture of nutritional yeast and salt. Then we're gonna start with about a tablespoon of lemon juice. Now eyeball it here. Then we'll add 1/2 cup of vegetable broth, and we can add more later if we want to thin it out a little bit. But we'll start with that and we'll blend it up on high. All right, it's looking good. Now I have a Vitamix mixer, so that's really powerful and gets those cashews creamy. If you have a lesser powerful mixer, you probably want to let it go a full couple minutes. This went for about 1.5 minutes and it's looking really good. And I cooked about 1/2 pound of fettuccine noodles, maybe a little bit more than 1/2 pound. We'll mix it up here. This looks and smells delicious.
Smells amazing. I can't wait to try it.
Me too.
And now it's time for dessert. We are making a raspberry chocolate truffle tart. I came across this recipe at my old job. We had a girl that was gluten-free and another coworker was dairy-free. And I had to find, well, I didn't have to, I wanted to find a recipe that everybody could enjoy. And the thing I like the most about this recipe is it doesn't feel like it's vegan.
It doesn't feel healthy.
No, it's decadent, it's rich, but there's no dairy. It is entirely vegan, which is good. We are going to start off with almond flour and a pinch of salt for the crust. And to that, we're going to add some cocoa powder. And we also have melted coconut oil, which will help the dry ingredients stick together. And a little bit of maple syrup just to add some sweetness to it. And then once Lorrie is done mixing that, we are going to put it into this pre-greased tart pan, and the tart pan has the bottom that lifts out because when we're all done and it's set, we will lift it out of the pan to be able to cut it into slices. So you want to make sure that it's moist enough to stick to the sides of the pan. If it's not, you can always add a little bit more coconut oil melted. And the great thing about this recipe is it's no bake. It just sets up in the fridge in a couple hours and it's ready to serve. And I just use my hands because it's easier. You want to make sure you're pushing it up the sides of the tart pan. And once it sits in the fridge, that coconut oil will help the crust solidify and harden up so that you'll be able to push it out of the pan when it's all done. Now for the filling, Lorrie's going to add some boiled full-fat coconut milk to the chopped up bittersweet chocolate. This has to sit for just a minute or so to make sure that the chocolate melts. And then once that is all melted, we'll mix it together so it's nice and creamy. And to that we will add raspberry preserves. I prefer seedless because I don't like chewing on the seeds. And then we will top it with fresh raspberries.
Sounds delicious. Should I stir it or give it a
Nope, just let it sit for just a minute so that it can heat up that chocolate, and then we can stir it up. And when you're stirring it, it should almost look like a chocolate ganache filling. You don't want any lumps in it, nice and smooth and creamy. That way you don't get any chunks of bittersweet chocolate in your pie. Now we're going to add the raspberry preserves, and we'll stir that up until it is melted and creamy with the chocolate. I'll use my spatula sometimes to kind of smush the lumps of raspberry preserves against the side of the bowl just to make sure that there's nothing too lumpy in there. And then you'll pour it into your pie crust, tart crust.
delicious.
It's so good. It's one of my favorites. I make it for friends and family that aren't vegan. I've made it for another friend that has dietary restrictions for gluten-free and dairy-free. And they can't believe it's not dairy. Yes. So then I'll just spread it around, just make sure it's evenly distributed in the tart crust. And then we can put some of the fresh raspberries on top. You can do it however you want. I usually put them in a nice little pattern, but you can put them wherever. And then it needs to cool in the refrigerator until the chocolate sets up, which is usually about 1 to 2 hours. And I like to serve it with coconut whipped cream. Kind of helps take away some of the richness of it.
Great.
And there you go, into the fridge it goes.
All right, our shells are out of the oven, smell so good. Our Alfredo's done. Our tart is set up and looking delicious. Katie made some coconut whipped cream, and we'll have the recipe down below for that. And this is also coconut whipped topping from Aldi's, non-dairy whipped topping. It's delicious. And the perfect accompaniment to this food is a delicious green leafy salad. And so it looks delicious, and I think I'm ready to eat.
I'm ready to dig in.
I'm so excited.
So good.
We hope that you enjoyed this, and all the recipes will be down below. And if you have any questions, comment wherever you see this video, and we will see you all next time.
I can't believe there's not cheese in that.
It's amazing. So creamy, delicious.
That definitely satisfies the comfort food craving.
Mm-hmm.